The United States dollar, often called the greenback, has been the backbone of the global financial system for nearly 8 decades. Since the end of World War II, the dollar has stood tall as the world's dominant reserve currency, used in trade, investment, and as a safe haven in times of crisis. But in 2025, serious questions are being raised. Is the US dollar losing its global power? The dollar's dominance is not just about paper money. It is about influence, trust, and control. More than 80% of global trade is still conducted in dollars, from oil and gas transactions to the purchase of everyday commodities like wheat and rice. Central banks around the world continue to hold trillions of dollars in reserves. And when financial markets tremble, investors still rush into U.S. Treasury bonds, believing the dollar will protect them. Yet, despite its strength, cracks are starting to appear. One of the biggest challenges to the dollar's supremacy comes from geopolitics. The rise of China, with its growing economic clout and its push for the Chinese yuan to play a larger role in global trade, has put pressure on the dollar's dominance. Initiatives like the Belt and Road, along with agreements to trade in local currencies, show that countries are slowly looking for alternatives. In 2025, we are also witnessing a new kind of competition: digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, are being developed in countries like China, India, and even Europe. These digital currencies are faster, cheaper, and less dependent on traditional banking systems that are dominated by the dollar. If widely adopted, CBDCs could reduce the reliance on the U.S. currency in cross-border trade. Another factor shaking confidence in the dollar is America's own economic challenges. The United States has faced record levels of debt, with government borrowing surpassing $34 trillion. High debt levels, combined with political gridlock in Washington, raise doubts about the long-term stability of the American economy. Inflation spikes in 2022 and 2023 showed the world that the U.S. economy is not invincible, and in 2025, questions about interest rates and monetary policy continue to create uncertainty. Still, it's important to remember that the dollar has survived challenges before. In the 1970s, after the collapse of the Bretton Woods system, many thought the dollar would fall apart. Instead, it emerged even stronger. In the 2008 global financial crisis, the dollar once again became the ultimate safe haven. History shows that the dollar's dominance is deeply entrenched in the global system. So, is the US dollar really losing its global power? The answer may not be simple. On one hand, alternatives are growing. The euro, the Chinese yuan, and even gold and cryptocurrencies are gaining traction. On the other hand, no single currency has yet demonstrated the scale, liquidity, and trust that the dollar commands. Global investors still see the U.S. as the safest place to store their wealth, and the American financial system remains unmatched in its depth and influence. What we may see in the coming years is not the sudden collapse of the dollar, but rather a gradual diversification. Countries will continue to use the dollar, but they may also hold more reserves in yuan, euros, or even digital assets. This means the dollar's share of global reserves could slowly shrink, from its current level of around 60%, to perhaps closer to 40% or 50% in the decades ahead. For ordinary people, the fate of the dollar matters more than they might think. A strong dollar makes imports cheaper, lowering the cost of goods like electronics, fuel, and food. But it also makes exports more expensive, which can hurt industries in developing countries. A weaker dollar, on the other hand, could push up the price of global commodities and create inflationary pressures worldwide. The question of whether the US dollar is losing its global power is really about the future of global leadership. The dollar is not just money, it is a symbol of American influence. If the world shifts away from the dollar, it could signal a shift in global power, from west to east, from Washington to Beijing, from old financial systems to new digital networks. In 2025, the dollar remains king, but the world is clearly changing. Rising powers, new technologies, and economic uncertainty are slowly eroding the foundation of the dollar's dominance. Will it remain the world's unrivaled currency, or will we see the birth of a multipolar financial system? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, the fate of the dollar will shape the future of the global economy, and every nation, every market, and every individual will feel its impact.